I have to start off by saying that my position has always been also that these honours should be refused, to be honest. The reason why I accepted this were multiple. I mean, firstly, a group of survivors of violence, of severe violence, worked on this nomination, often getting up in the night to modify what they'd written and worrying it was okay and wanting to do me proud. And I know, and I've talked to, I now know who they were, and I've talked to a couple of them, and they would have been devastated if I'd refused. That's one thing. The other thing is that you can perhaps use it to promote the cause, and that is been my life's work, to make the world safer for abused women and children. And if I can use it in any way to help that, then I would.
Sure. Before we go on to the, if you like, the terminology and the semantics of that word empire, just tell us a little bit. It would be, we'd probably need a 2-hour program to go right through the work that you've done, but you have been key, haven't you, to being involved in so many projects, primarily talking about violence against women.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. Yes, I have. I've worked on the issue for about nearly 50 years. I like to be known as an activist. I know you introduced me as an academic in the other programme, but I like to be known as an activist. Myself and Ellen Malos, who's well known in the city, pioneered the what used to be the Violence Against Women Research Centre at the university, which has done key research all over the world. I've been involved in an amazing number of campaigns and issues, not just in this country, but in many other countries where I've worked in partnership with women's organisations. Okay.
You've been commissioned to write a book on the inspiring history of the women's movement against violence, and I guess that's historical in the sense of looking at subjects like that. But where we are today, and I remember having a conversation with Thangham Debonair before she was MP, because she worked in a job looking after and guiding and supporting women from domestic violence backgrounds, etc., etc. And one of the questions I asked, and she told me a few years back then, was, wow, no one's asked me that question. What do you do with us, men, right? We need help. We need educating. There's so much that, we are the perpetrators. And so we need to modify our culture and our behaviour. How much do you believe that, and how much do you think needs to be done?
Yeah, sure, yeah. I used to work with Thangham, by the way. She's fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for actual male perpetrators, there are, of course, programmes that you can go on. I don't know how effective they are, but they exist. For men in the general population, I think there's a lot of education these days, isn't there? There's stuff in schools. What we want to see, I suppose, is a type of masculinity which embraces the fact that to be masculine means that you would not want to harm those around you, that you would want to treat people with dignity and respect. And that's what we're aiming towards, I guess.
And those words sound great, but as we go up and down, whether it's, pubs and clubs and households and football grounds and wherever we go, the words sound great, but sometimes the actions aren't there. And sometimes little children are watching their parents, their dads, say things, even from politics. We look at politicians and we comment on their hair, if they're female, their hair and what they're wearing, or are you allowed to wear an off-the-shoulder dress? And that suddenly becomes big news rather than actually looking at people for their talent in that sense. So I suppose we have got a very long way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. But we've come a long way too, eh?
Yeah, no,
definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's get back to this then. So say somebody like me, and Primrose spoke before, I'm saying, listen, I understand completely the fact that when somebody gets an honour in the honours list, there are people that will fill in blooming big, forms, 2 inches thick and deep, go and get references and work so hard to try and make sure that it goes through. I understand that there are those people. But then there are also those who also may well be victims from other cultures, whose countries have been completely and totally wrecked by the British Empire. That, there was, I did read out a phrase from George the poet, And it was like, and it was so beautiful the way that he said it. And if I can find it, I will, or maybe Ivan will find it for me. But he likened it to his mother country being raped continuously for years and years and years, and then being left on their own without being able to tend their wounds. And that's how he feels the British Empire treated his country. And of course, I'm from Asian descent. And of course, what happened in India with partition, the millions that died and perished, what the Queen wears right now in that crown, some of those jewels, where they came from, and so all of it says to me, I absolutely applaud what people do in this country, and I do believe that they should, people should be honoured for their work. But I just, I don't know, I find it so difficult. So I understand your point. So kind of convince me, if you can.
Oh, I don't know if I can convince you.
Oh,
I mean,
you might.
No, I don't think so. I was completely anguished for weeks after I found out as to whether I should accept it or not. I just didn't know what to do. Some of the reasons why I did was, first of all countries have national honours.
Yep.
So, and I was honoured for my contribution to the community and to make society better. So that felt okay to me. It's the names, isn't it?
Yes.
So what I decided to do was, to try and mount a campaign to continue with other people to try and get the names changed, as many people are doing. So I'm doing that with the articles I'm writing and all kinds of stuff. To myself, I will not use those initials unless I'm asked to by an organisation that's wanting my help. I won't use them myself. As I said, I would try and use it when I could use it, actually, to promote the cause. That kind of felt the best I could do. I felt like, I know that Nitin Sawhney said when he finally accepted his after first refusing, that his family would have been so very proud. So there's that aspect as well. I've also spent a lot of my life campaigning around anti-racism and campaigning around the terrible, terrible things which the British Empire did in the name of this country. And I carry that, and I just have to juggle the guilt and anguish about this, really, which I deeply feel.
You're very open and you're very honest about it, and I genuinely believe, and believe you me, if I didn't believe it, I wouldn't say it. I genuinely believe that you are at odds. And I genuinely believe that you care. And I think what's really positive is the fact that you are part of this campaign to get the word removed. And sometimes being in the club, it can be easier to change than if you're outside it, I guess, sometimes. And so, I've got a massive amount of respect for you and the work that you've done, and also the fact that there are some people that make the choice to accept and honour. For me, though, it always comes back to, so what do you say to those people? So if you have victims that you've been working with that might be from, countries in the Caribbean or Africa or Asia, and they'll go, Jill, I love what you do, but please don't make me refer to it. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I guess you're aware of that, aren't you, that some people will feel like that?
I'm aware of that, and I'm aware that the issue brings up very strong feelings for everybody, and some people will feel some people have decided to stop talking. One of my somebody I know has decided to stop talking to me because I accepted it. So people have very strong feelings about this. All I feel I can do is campaign to make a change as best I can, so that's what I'm trying to do, really.
Sure. Okay. Ivan.
Yes, Pat, you mentioned George the Poet earlier on, and I'll just quote a tweet he put out recently, and this is referring to the word empire and the British Empire. He says, I don't hate white people. I don't think the whole empire is pure evil. I just think rape is, and that's what the British Empire did to my motherland. These are my feelings. You don't have to take them on. So that's what he had to say.
Sure.
And maybe, I can actually go on from a point that you said, Pat. Sometimes sometimes it might be easier working from the inside out, and successive governments have refused to budge on this issue of removing that word empire. I believe you're working on a possible compromise, Jill. Are you able to sort of go further and sort of like sort of elucidate on that and actually say what that compromise might be?
Yeah, thanks, Ivan. I must say that, by the way, that I've been communicating with those people, and you think we have this idea that they're all old imperialists or whatever, but of course the ones I've been talking to are just chatty civil servants who talk to you by your first name. But anyway, The Cabinet Office did a survey, not a very comprehensive one, in which I think 47% of people said they wanted to keep the names and 15% said they wanted to change.
Right.
So they then decided not to change the names for now, and they're just not going to budge on that. So what we proposed for now is that, okay, they've decided not to change the names, so we've proposed, myself and Naminda Kaur, who I'm working with, we've proposed that they instead, at least for now, offer an alternative to those people like myself of deep, or you of deep conscience and conviction,
Sure.
who don't feel able to accept the name. That would be specifically offered to them, much as, like, I suppose in court, you don't have to swear on the Bible or the Quran. You can. So it would be offering those people an alternative as a way forward for now. So those people could accept the honour with joy instead of with anguish, as in my case. So that's a possible way forward, until they maybe change the names in the future.
Okay. And in many respects, I guess, for the work that you've done, and we spoke about this at the top of the show, is that the work that you've done, it's about really celebrating that work and saying that the work that you've done and are still doing is important. It's important to people, and people really do appreciate it. I'm not sure how bothered you are whether or not Her Majesty particularly appreciates it herself or Peaches Golding. I think, for you, can I ask you, what is more important? Is it more important that the feelings of those victims that have supported you, that wanted you to know how grateful they are, or is it more important to know that the Queen wants you to know how grateful she is?
Oh no, not the latter. I mean, the fact that so many survivors of violence wrote wonderful things about me and wanted to put me forward is intensely moving.
Yeah.
And I wanted to honour that. I wanted to honour them. So that's what I've done. I realise that my decision is open to question, and I'm very aware of that, so I have to live with that.
Sure. Jill, I am so grateful for you coming in, and the one thing I think this does show is that it is important to talk. I feel sad that there are people that said they're not going to talk to you anymore, because I don't think that's the way forward. I think that we need to be able to express our opinions openly and honestly, but also respect the other side and respect the reasoning for the other side. And if we want people to change, we'll do it gradually, and we'll talk, and we'll keep talking like you're trying to do with the government and get them to change. But it's not just going to be one letter or one article in a newspaper. It will be a series of things that we hope will gradually create a change. So I'd love you to come back in from time to time and talk about some of the work that you've done, because it is fascinating. And in a way, it's a pity that this conversation has been about the honour rather than about the work. So I think that, excuse me, we should make some time to talk about the work. But is there anything, finally, that you want to say to people that are listening now and going, she just wanted those letters after her name, that's why? There will be some people saying that listening. Anything you want to say to them?
Yeah, of course, there's something about that. I mean, it's nice to be honoured, isn't it? What I wanted to say quickly, I suppose, is that in the violence against women movement, we've spent 50 years trying to get the state to take this issue seriously,
Sure.
the government and so on, and they do a bit now. And so you could say that at least now they're beginning to recognise it as a subject of importance, and maybe this could be seen as a little bit part of that. But thank you so much for having me on. It's been great, and I'm really grateful to you guys. And it's great what you do on BCfm. Wow.
Oh, thank you so much. There is an event that we'll publicise that you've got involved. Ivan, if I know you've got that information, should we quickly give that a plug?
Yes, so this event, excuse me, is taking place. It's at the Old Picture House in Totterdown. It's called Making Change, an international evening of poetry and jazz. And there's going to be some short films on the big screen and poems by Maya Angelou, some blues and jazz music, lots of different stuff going on. Jill, I can't see the date of that particular event. I don't know whether you'll be able to just let us know what date that's on.
Yes. It also features, by the way, an acclaimed Kurdish poet who's a colleague of mine who will be sending amazing poems direct by video from the Middle East. It's on February the 28th, and it starts at 7:30.
Brilliant. Gill Hague, you didn't want me to call you Dame. Professor,
Dame,
is that all right?
No. Okay. Professor's okay.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming in on the One Love Breakfast. You have a great day.
Thank you, Pat.
It's 8:57. News, travel and weather is next. I'm signing off. Ivan's going to be looking after you all the way through till 10 o'clock. If you want to get involved, by the way, 07503 725 345 is the WhatsApp number. You can send a text 60777, start your text with BCfm, or get involved on our social media. You'll be able to see this video very soon as well. Valentin Saiz has been here producing and filming. Here's the Architects.